My name is Ken Wicks. I'm president of Lazyboy Farm Incorporated in Middletown, Delaware. And we grow potatoes, cabbage, corn, wheat, and soybeans on about 500 acres of owned and rented ground. There are currently 2 generations of families working on Lazyboy Farm. My brother and myself, we own the property and own the farm itself. My nephew, my brother's son, has been working with us since 2007 or so, full time. After he got out of school, and my daughter is working here full-time over the summer, and we're not sure after that. She just graduated from the University of Delaware and is going on for a graduate degree. So Lazyboy Farm is unique as we are one of the few remaining potato growers in the state, actually the last potato grower in Newcastle County. We are also one of the few cabbage growers in the state, as far as I know, the only one in Newcastle County growing cabbage. Other than that, we're a typical small family farm growing grain and wheat and corn and soybeans as a rotation in addition to the potatoes and cabbage. Our history is my father moved down here from Long Island in 1955 to move away from the development that was happening in the Long Island area after World War II. He had 5 brothers, and they all moved down here to various places in Delaware and Maryland. They farmed throughout their life here, and we, as my brother and I, have come back to the farm after we got it done with college. Currently, upon the passing of my mother last fall, the property is now owned by my brother and myself in a LLC. The business part of the farm is owned by Lazyboy Farm, which is again owned by Chris and myself. Lazyboy Farm operates the farm, owns the equipment, owns the the farming aspect of it. The other part of it is owned by, the land is owned by my brother and myself. It's important, a farm succession plan is important to enable siblings and children of farm owners or land property owners to be able to pass their assets on to their children without having to incur a large amount of tax debt or estate debt, or just basically to be able to say that you can direct your assets where you want them to go before you pass, and that's very important. My mother and father started it years ago with started the farm succession plan many years ago with the Extension Service. They had outreach programs back in the late 70s, early 80s. And they attended them. They then they were then led through those extension programs to attorneys that would help them start the process of writing a plan or writing wills and trusts and such. And throughout their life, they thought it was very important to be able to direct their assets where they really wanted to go at the end of their life. So they were very active in keeping it updated and working on it and trying to get it fine-tuned for the time. The key factor was the passing of my father in '02. They had, as I said before, they had all the trusts and they had many things set up that would have made the transition a lot easier than with nothing. But upon the passing of my father, my brother and I wanted to continue to farm here on the farm, and the way they had it set up to be the old adage of equal is fair, and that's not always the case. So I told my mom, I said, if you keep it equals fair, and whatever cash or money you have put away is split up, and the farm is split up 4 ways because there's 4 kids, then in order for my brother and I to continue farming, we would have to buy out my other brother and a sister, and that would be that leaves a lot of uncertainty to how it all works out. So she decided to form the LLC, put the property in it. She took the one-time exemption that she took to try to get us in there, did all the work to get it done. So Chris and I were owning the farm, and we knew that whatever assets she had at the end of her life, my other brother and sister were going to get. So it goes back to knowing where you want to direct your assets before you die. The greatest challenge was seeing my parents, and all of us will do it, see your mortality. You're planning all your life. My father's comment was when he was doing his will just before he passed away. He says, I had fun making it, you can have fun figuring it out when I get done, but that wouldn't have worked either. So he was very proactive as far as doing it, but it's just tedious. It's a lot of work. It's hard to wrap your head around how it all works with the trusts and such. It's not a concrete thing, so it's hard to there's buckets and circles, and it all flows and flows in and flows out, and then do that on a piece of paper and trust that it's going to work at the end of your life is hard to see when you're making it. But the mortality was the hardest thing, just to realize that you've now you're planning on your death. You're planning on your not being here. So start early. It takes a lot of time. It takes just a lot of patience, a lot of direction, a lot of introspection of where you want it to go. Earlier the better, and that way you have time to live with it, and because you do live with it, and you change your mind along the way, and things get adjusted according to just your family or just tax law. So I would say start early as you can, because you just don't know how long you're going to be here. So in summary, I would like to say, as far as doing succession planning, I would say, again, start early. Communications with the primary factors involved in your farm are of utmost importance. If you have siblings and children that aren't that involved, get them involved. If they're not, then it's to their benefit to be involved. But if they're not, they'll just have to settle for whatever gets decided in your plan. We started with the extension service back in the late 70s and early 80s, as I said before. So to get pointed in the right direction, I would first say, like my parents did, to go see the Cooperative Extension Service. If your accountant is knowledgeable, sometimes they know somebody. Farm Bureau might have a list of people across the country that do this type of thing. I'm sure they are a national organization, so they would also have it too. Other than that, it's just like I said, start early. Things get changed, the law gets changed. It's not a static. You just don't write it and put it in a drawer. You write it, and 5 or 6 years later, you got to go revisit it because your family's changed, your status changes, everything changes. So.